do to get off all this rope is we're going to cut through the latissimus dorsi and spina trapezius, as well as cutting through the pectoralis profundus and superficialis. Now, you can do chest on the right, back on the left if you want to, for example, but in reality, you're better off if you do the chest and the back on the same side. That, because you'll have to clean up in this area. And so if you do it on the same side, you only have to clean that area up once. So it saves you a little bit of work. All right, so let's see, which is the bad side here? Well, they're about the same, so I'll go ahead and start on this side since I've already got it set up. So we're first going to cut through the pectoralis, superficialis, and profundus. You're going to do this a little different than what you've done before. We're going to come in with the probe to lift the muscles up, and then slice with the scissors. Now, if you look at it here, we've got the sternum, and then the shoulder here is almost a straight line, right under the skin. So we're going to go in at a 45-degree angle, lifting up with the probe so you don't cut into the muscles by mistake. The underlying muscle, I should say. Remember how to hold your scissors. And hopefully your scissors won't be quite as large as these are. These are pretty big for this kind of work. And by the way, I'm impressed that no one has cut their profundus yet, because usually somebody does. So that was actually a good job on your part. All right. See how I was kind of patient as I did that and just sliced right through it all? In the armpit here, we have blood vessels and nerves that are very important. You want to salvage them, which means don't touch them, leave them alone. But all those blood vessels are going to be important to us later. All right, so already in here we can see a couple of our muscles, but let's go ahead and get the back. So I was working on the arm near me. I flip my rod over. Now the arm is further away. Got to double check, because if you were distracted, you'd probably go on the wrong side. So just always double check. And what we're going to do here is similar to what you did on the back. Going to lift up on the spina trapezius, lift up on the latissimus dorsi. We can do both at the same time, or if you're not comfortable doing that, you don't have to. And we fold this back and begin taking a look in here. And now we come across one of the problems that you will be dealing with. You cut the muscle, you may need pins to hold the muscle flaps out of your way as you work on it. There's not a lot of cleaning to do in here, which is one of the pluses typically of working with deep muscles. And even though this is early on and I'm not at the erector spinae group yet, we can begin to see some muscles here. These little segmental looking muscles right there. Serratus dorsalis. Almost reminds you of the myotomes you saw in lecture. And then slightly in front of it, we have this muscle here, which is going to be the serratus anterior in human anatomy, or in our class, serratus ventralis. And it's called that, as is this one, because you've got this jagged border. It's kind of serrated looking, like a serrated steak knife edge. So we can clean that up a little bit to make it easier to see and identify. This is actually one of the worst looking serratuses I've seen. It's really odd that a man would have such a poor one. It's not your fault, it's the fault of the animal, for whatever reason. All right, so now we can begin working around in here and seeing what we have to work with. So right here, we have a muscle that you're already very familiar with, but it's not where you think it would be. The muscle I'm holding on to is the rectus abdominis, coming all the way up onto the sternum. As I'm pulling up on it, you can see the edge of this muscle coming up here. That's our external abdominal oblique. Again, as we come down on this, we can see right in here, there's our serratus ventralis. Just clean those borders up a little bit so you can see the serrations. And now I'm looking for a fairly small muscle that usually sit right in here. There she is. This muscle here is the scalenus. Here we are on the armpit. There's the scapula. We can see our serratus ventralis attaching to the scapula. We're on the underside of the scapula, and there's a couple of muscles there we want to see. If I can get this little guy to cooperate. We've got a little fat in here, which is blocking our view. But this is a muscle you learned about previously. I'm having a hard time section. On the edge of the scapula is the teres major, which you recall came off of the latissimus dorsi. There's our dividing line right there. And you'll see the teres major on either side because it kind of sits on the axillary border of the scapula. And now we're on a muscle that's sitting right on the subscapular surface, called the subscapularis. So we have our teres major, subscapularis, serratus ventralis. All of this in front of the serratus ventralis here is levator scapulae, which elevates the scapula. Don't say it levitates like it's a magic act. Someone does that every semester. Here we have our rectus thoracicus, or abdominis if you prefer, and here we have the scalenus. And that's about it, at least for now. Later on, we'll go into the erector spinae and all that, which will be a deeper dissection.
And keep in mind, like, this thing is huge on the